Subcommittee, the House Energy and Commerce Committee, a backer of the health care bill, instrumental in its passage out of the House. Congressman, thank you for making some time tonight. I want to...
always good to be with you, Chris. How are you?
It's always a pleasure. I'm good. I want to talk about, I want to bracket for a second the substance, whether the bill is good or bad, and just focus on the changes of the principles the House GOP itself espoused. So on the House GOP website, there was the following sentence: Americans should never be denied coverage or charged more because of a pre-existing condition. That was a sort of universal principle that was on that website. It's now been taken off because that's no longer the case with this bill, right?
Well, I disagree that that's no longer the case, but here,
wait, but
let me just say this.
Why did they take that language off the website if it's not no longer the case?
I don't know. You probably need to talk to somebody who's in charge of the Republican website, not me. But I was deeply involved with this bill as we marked it up in the Committee on Energy and Commerce. We had a 28-hour markup. And just to take even a step back, this bill was marked up and passed in a previous Congress in December of 2015. Both House and Senate passed a reconciliation bill. That became the platform of the nidus for the bill that we had before our committee. And I thought the committee product, after all of the work that was put in, was a very good product. Now, that's the one that got pulled from the floor because for some it was not conservative enough. They wanted that additional state flexibility for a state to say we don't want to do community rating.
That's right.
And a governor to petition for a waiver. So that language was added, and then Chairman Upton.
I just want to establish this basic thing because I feel like one of the things that's frustrating about this debate is there's a lot of sort of dissembling and obfuscation about what exactly is going on here. The waivers that are there would allow a state to get rid of community rating. Community rating is a regulation that says you can't charge sicker people more. So if that waiver happened, insurance companies could charge sicker people more, correct?
Right, but there are protections.
Right, but that is true, right?
A state cannot petition for a waiver if it does not have a hybrid reinsurance risk-sharing arrangement in place and functional when they petition for that waiver.
But
look,
wait a second. This is interesting to me because I've talked to Congressman Cole last night and to you as well, and the defenses weirdly don't affirmatively defend the waiver. What the defenses end up to is, the waiver's really hard to get. But the waiver
no, it's not. The waiver is there for any state. Now, I will share with you, Chris, I am not aware of any state that has really seriously inquired about this waiver authority.
Scott Walker in Wisconsin today said that he would look into waiving precisely the community rating mandates in Wisconsin, said that today.
Well, very well. The Senate obviously takes this bill. I would not expect this bill to get more conservative in the Senate just because of the nature of the body.
You're doing the same thing. This is the pattern for the defenses of this bill. The pattern I've heard from you and Congressman Cole when I talk about this provision, which is controversial, has people worked up, right? And I just want to nail down what it does, is the waiver's hard to get. I don't know if anyone's going to get the waiver, and the Senate's going to take up the bill. None of those are affirmative defenses of the principle that insurance companies should be allowed to charge sicker people more, which is what now is enshrined in the bill you passed.
No, that the state should have the flexibility to
allow insurance companies to do that.
To set up products in their market that are appropriate for their market.
That allow insurance companies to charge sicker people more.
And there is a premium support mechanism in place if that does happen. And do bear in mind, we are only talking about the individual market for someone who has allowed coverage to lapse. That is, they're not in a continuous coverage situation, and they would only be in a non-continuous coverage situation for the year after which they get coverage. There's a 30% charge that is added to that. There is the premium support to help them afford that coverage, and then after they've been under coverage for a year, they're no longer in a lapsed continuous coverage situation. So I believe it is a manageable situation, but there were people who felt very strongly that states needed the flexibility to set up the plans that would best serve the citizens of the states. That is one of the things we heard repetitively from the governors. We had 3 roundtables with governors in January and February, and repetitively we heard, we want the flexibility to
you heard that from
derive
Republican
products
and Democratic governors, or just Republican governors?
Republican, two roundtables were with Republican governors. One was a bipartisan roundtable.
Let me ask you this, because the House GOP had its promises. The President of the United States made a bunch of promises about the health care plan, and I just want to ask you if they come through in this bill. The President said the following things about it. He says, we're going to have insurance for everybody. CBO says 24 million will lose health care. Whatever you think about this bill, good or bad, it won't be insurance for everybody.
Well, the reason the CBO makes that projection is because we're removing the individual mandate,
right, of
which
course,
I feel strongly about. I feel
point.
like individual mandate is one of the more pernicious parts
I understand
of
you feel that way,
Affordable
but
Care Act.
all I'm asking is whether the President, who said we are going to have insurance for everybody, this bill does not mean insurance for everybody.
There will be access for everyone.
But not insurance. Access and insurance are different.
Well, coverage, actual care and coverage are different. Sure. I can tell you that as a physician. There were plenty of times that I saw people who had coverage and weren't getting care.
That I agree with, that this is an argument for single payer. Here's my other question. The President said, and in fact it was a distinguishing element, I don't remember if you went through the primaries, other people were talking about cutting Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. The President said repeatedly, save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, that he wasn't going to cut Medicaid. He attacked other candidates for cutting Medicaid. This bill represents a cut to Medicaid of $639 billion, correct?
Well, now wait a minute. It represents a cut in the growth of Medicaid, but I don't recall the President making that statement. I do recall him making a statement about Social Security and Medicare. Medicaid is a little bit of a different situation. There's no trust fund with Medicaid.
But the
People
President,
don't pay into Medicaid.
So we're on the same page. This bill does represent a cut to Medicaid. The President did say multiple times he would not cut Medicaid.
It represents a slowing in the growth of Medicaid. Medicaid spends $550 billion this year. By 10 years' time, it will be spending $1 trillion. It's already bigger than the National Health Service.
But you're taking money out of the Medicaid line item in the budget. That's where the savings come from.
The projected rate of growth, not out of Medicaid.
Right. All right. But the President did say he wasn't going to cut Medicaid.
I don't recall him making that statement.
All right. He did.
I do recall him making a statement about Social Security and Medicare.
He did.
Medicaid is different.
It caught me at the time because a lot of times people say they're not going to touch Medicare and Social Security. Medicaid is often seen as a program for the poor. It struck me as really notable back on the campaign trail that the President, Donald Trump at the time, who was just a candidate, distinguished himself by saying he wouldn't cut Medicaid. This bill does cut Medicaid.
No, this bill cuts the rate of growth in Medicaid, but it does not cut Medicaid. And it does give states a stable funding program if a state elects a per beneficiary allotment, they're fixed at the 2016 beneficiary year, growing at CPI medical +1. That's a fairly generous growth rate under anyone's projections.
Yes, it is less than the growth rate now, which is where the savings come from. Michael Burgess, always good to have you here. Thank you.